Greetings, listeners. It is I, Lucy Scary, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Overseers podcast. Last time we went over Ambition and Method's glorious love story, where I once again forgot the love part. I think that the thing is, when you want to write characters that are, like, in love, you have to actually show them being in love, and I can't, I don't know. All of my experience with love is just one-sided pining. Well, it is, it is mostly pining. I've never actually, here's big confession time, guys. I've never actually been in a relationship where, like, I loved the person, like, romantically. Like, I've been in relationships where, you know, we're still friends now, like, genuinely friends, and I've been in relationships where we broke up and I never spoke to them again because I just wasn't romantically. Anyways, let's talk about what happens next in Anne B's story, because it's toxic. So it's back to angst, so I can do that. And you could definitely tell that I'm living with a dog again, because my nose voice is all stuffed up, and I'm gonna keep doing that stupid sniffling. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry in advance. There is no solution. I'm living with a dog now, so suffer, I guess. I don't know if I'm talking to y'all or me. Anyways, so Ambition and Method, they fell in love. They had this great, like, life. I mean, maybe I could talk about some of it. I just feel like Method just really understands Ambition. So, like, for instance, like, I have this scene in my head where, like, Ambition is venting to Method about Pippa, because, you know, she's, like, still acts like a teenager, and Ambition is, like, 30, and he wants to do more adult things, and she's like, let's go clubbing, and he's like, I don't really want to go clubbing anymore, and he's, like, talking about this to Method, and Method is, like, very much, like, talks to him about, like, his feelings and everything, and, like, reminds him that, like, Pippa is, you know, an alien from an entirely different culture, and she's gonna be very different from him, and, you know, it's okay for her, like, that she is changing, but it's just so much slower than Ambition, and, you know, sometimes it's okay if you and your friends, you know, drift apart, you know, it's not, like, a bad thing, it's just people change, and then, you know, sometimes relationships falter out, so I feel like, you know, Ambition is just a person with so many feelings and emotions and conflicts all the time, and Method, this is the thing, I've been reading a book on the Enneagram, and the more I think about it, the more I do think that Ambition is a type 4, and if you don't know what that means, I'm sorry, just get into the Enneagram, and Method is definitely a type 9, so type 9s are the peacemakers, so they're the type that can, like, see from both sides of an angle and, like, mediate and all that stuff, and I just feel like, because the thing with type 9s is that, everybody read the Enneagram, because it can help you write personalities so well, and I keep on saying read the Enneagram. I'm reading this one book on the Enneagram. It is a Christian book, so it's talking about, like, God and stuff, but, like, if you can ignore that, it's a really good book on the Enneagram, or if you're like me, and you can vibe with that, it's a really good book on the Enneagram. I haven't finished it yet, so I'm not gonna, you know what, I'm not going to recommend the book until I finished it, but just saying, I am going to be talking about the Enneagram because I love the Enneagram. How many times can I say Enneagram? Anyways, so the thing about type 9s is that because they want to avoid conflict at all costs, a lot of times, you know, if they're an unhealthy 9, then they'll just, like, totally dissociate and, like, not, like, just, like, two people are fighting, I'm gonna go take a nap. And I feel like that's so Method at the beginning of his story, where he's just like, I don't want to think about conflict, I don't want to think about this at all, so I'm just going to pretend like it doesn't exist. But then, you know, once he and Ambition, you know, start hanging out more, and, like, he has to, like, confront all this conflict and figure out a way to resolve it, I feel like he very much becomes a peacemaker, and is able to, like, you know, calm down Ambition whenever he's getting more crazy, and he was just, like, this constant calming force in Ambition's crazy life, and I feel like that was exactly what Ambition needed. So when Method does die, oh, also, I forgot to say this in the last episode, but the book. So Ambition does write a second ending to his dad's book. And this was like a plot point in the original Blue Dye, but like I try to shove it into the rewrite and it doesn't really fit, because basically like the first draft of Blue Dye didn't really have any conflict. So I think that like Ambition and Method were like going around the universe trying to think of how to write an ending for this book, which is like, I guess that's a thing. I mean, maybe it's a better, I don't know. But basically, some point, I assume, like, when Ambition is, like, 18, 19, even 20, you know, maybe 17, sometime after meeting Method and, you know, getting his life straightened out, he finds out about the way that, you know, he's like, oh yeah, my dad never finished the book, I wonder what happened there, and he finds out about, like, Expression's ending of the book, and he's like, I don't like that ending, because it's all like, Angel was such a good person. And he's like, she literally wasn't, though. Like, and he gets, like, very, like, angry at, like, the way that, like, the fandom sees these characters. Because, you know, in the fandomize, it's the Explorer, and it's Sammy, and it's Angel, you know? They're these great characters that, you know, are just super awesome people. And he's like, but Sammy literally murdered, like, Infinity, and Dreamer was no angel. So Ambition ends up writing his own ending to the story, where basically, you know, in the Explorer is like, oh yeah, Angel was dead, she's been dead the entire time, like he does in Expression's version. But then Sammy shows up and goes, hey Explorer, turns out, you know, Angel is alive. Here, let me come show you where she is. So Sammy takes the Explorer to Angel, and like Angel is like gone like completely feral, like she's turned into this complete monster, and the Explorer is shocked to see her. Like, I feel like Ambition really like makes her like monstrous in his book, like not just like a normal level of like quote unquote deranged, but like actually monstrous. And Angel attacks the Explorer and, like, tears him open and, like, kills him in this incredibly gruesome way. And, of course, because it's Ambition, he, like, writes down, like, all the details, like, going into all the gory details. And then he's like, yeah, this is the true ending. And Method's like, are you sure about this, Ambition? And Ambition's like, this is the hill that I'm dying on. You can't talk me out of this. And Method's like, okay. And Quest is like, you're gonna make people angry. And Ambition is like, good, you know, this isn't just a story, this is my life, you know, and people need to know, you know, something that's closer to the truth. So Ambition, I don't know how he does it, maybe he like puts it out online or something, like, or he like makes some big dramatic show of like, hey, I'm actually the Explorer's son, and this is the real ending. I don't know exactly how he does it, I haven't thought about, I always just said the Explorer's son publishes his version of the novel. Or maybe I think I actually did BS this thing where basically, since he is Infinity's son, technically he owns the rights to the novella, the series. So, but then the company should be able to veto this. But maybe, you know, like Apple, who's Infinity's agent, is like, you know what, kiddo, I'll let you publish this gory thing. You know what? I could see Apple doing that, because she's kind of into shock value. So I could see her reading this and being like, man, this is going to get people talking about the series again. We're going to sell a bunch of books. So they do end up, like, publishing the Explorer's son's version of the book. And, of course, you know, people are reading it, and all the people that ship Sammy and the Explorer, and the people who ship Angel and the Explorer, like, nobody's happy with this ending, but it does get people talking about it again. And, you know, after that, you know, the Explorer just kind of dissipates into people's minds, and people kind of forget about the series, because, you know, it was a big deal, but then, you know, people grow up, so it's not really all that big of a fandom anymore. Anyways, so Ambition and Method, you know, oh, I forgot to pay attention to what time I started recording at. You know what, it'll be fine. So, Ambition and Method, they keep growing, they grow old together, it's very sweet. I mostly think about Quest and illustration. People keep on asking me for art of illustration. I have a picture of illustration. I don't know why people assume I don't, but they're like, can you draw illustration? Or like, what does illustration look like? I don't know what the collective like amnesia about her is. It's just like people, I guess maybe she doesn't look like how people expected her to look. whatever. Anyway, so, eventually Method does die, and Ambition, I feel like, totally age regresses at this point. Well, I mean, like, I don't want to use the term age regress necessarily, but, I definitely think that, like, when he's with Method, Ambition is very much a chameleon personality sometimes. It is a contradiction because he has such strong opinions, but also he is very easily influenced by the people he's around. So when he's with Method, and Method is like 50, he's gonna act like a 50-year-old. And then, I feel like he was very codependent on Method. Like, honestly, it might not have been, like, the healthiest relationship. And then also, any problem that, like, Ambition had with Method, as soon as Method dies, suddenly he was this angel, suddenly he was this perfect person. Oh my gosh, he does exactly what his dad did. Let's pretend like that's narrative parallels and not just me writing the same story over and over again. I wonder where I got that. Sarah, you need to stop.
Okay, this is editing Sarah trying to be quiet because it is very late. It sounds like I slapped myself there. I just clapped. I don't know why I'm like this.
So he's kind of very much lost. Ambition is very much lost after Method dies. And, Method's gone, Quest is gone, because Method is the last of the friend group to go. Gem's gone, Illustration's gone. So all he really has left is Pippa. I realized that I didn't really explain this well. I was like, Ambition just goes to party after Method dies. But this is very much how Ambition copes with things. Where he's like, okay, all of my friends are dead. I have no purpose in life anymore. And Pippa is just a constant, So he knows that he can always call her up and be like, let's party, girl. And so, he calls her up and he's like, I don't want to think about my life right now. I am feeling too much. And Pippa's like, I got 15 different drugs that can fix that. So yeah, I do think that there is a time, like a good, like, decade after Method dies that, Ambition just lives in denial. He's like, this is fine. And then, eventually, you can't run away from your sadness forever. So I do think that he crashes eventually and it's just absolutely devastated, I think that he just, like, hides away on his spaceship and, like, doesn't talk to anybody. And of course, Pippa's kind of like, I don't know how to help you, man. Like, I care about you, but also the vibes are super bad here. I'm getting a lot of negativity. I'm not saying Pippa's, like, a bad person. I just think that, like, she genuinely doesn't know how to help Ambition. And she structured her life. She's very much a type 7. Oh my gosh. I'm, like, obsessed with the Enneagram. She's very much a type 7. So she's like, the vibes are bad. Peace out, man. So, yeah. So I do think that, there's, like, a couple years in there where Ambition, maybe another decade, where Ambition is just totally moping around. And then I feel like eventually, he's just like, I can't be on Aimsophoseness without Method, so I do think that he spends, like, a good amount of time kind of going back to what his dad did and just, going to random planets and just, like, helping people and, like, staying for a few years and, like, teaching them, like, how to catfish farm and just, like, little things like that. And, he does continue to hang out with Pippa, but he doesn't go, like, completely off the rails like he used to. Like, he's very much like, I need to recover, So, and it takes him, like, a good 100 years to, like, be like, okay, I'm gonna go back to Aimsophoseness, it's my home planet, I want to see what's going on there. So I always say that that Ambition and the doll story happens 100 years after Infinity dies, but it's because I get my dates all mixed up. It actually happens 200 years after Infinity dies. So after Infinity died and his son was, like, a warrant was out for his arrest. Apple, of course, did not care about all this. She was like, I'm just gonna publish the story anyways. Arrest be Oh, sorry, you wanted to arrest that kid? Oh, man. I mean, I don't know where he is now. He just dropped off this manuscript. I mean, Apple is, Infinity's, she's Infinity's agent. That's what she is. Anyway, so, because, the story belongs to Infinity. Infinity's dead. His son, which would be, like, would go to the rights, because in their universe, copyright laws, it's very different from ours. I don't actually... Shush, what? No, stop. Oh, I do need to... Yeah, take your meds, kids. Even if you gotta pause your stupid podcast to go take them. Yeah. Also, nobody can say that I have undiagnosed ADHD anymore because now I have diagnosed ADHD. Huzzah! Where was I? I don't remember. Anyway, so 200 years after Infinity dies, his story goes into the public domain, and they're like, I mean, the fandom's kind of dead. We can basically do whatever the heck we want. But the director, the director they hire is one of these guys that, like, you know those directors that, like, have, like, some weird, obscure thing that they want to turn into a movie theater? Okay, maybe I am a person that talks to a lot of directors. But you talk to a lot of people who want to be directors, and they will have, like, some weird, obscure media piece. They're like, if I could turn this into blank, oh my gosh, you know? And, like, for, like with Lauren Faust, how she... Is it Faust? Lauren Faust? How she, like, made, like, foster home for imaginary kids, and the other one, and then they're like, hey, you like My Little Pony, do you want to make the new generation? And she was like, yes, and then she made Friendship is Magic. So, like, that sort of thing. So I imagine they get some sort of director. We'll just call him director. We'll pretend like his name is the one who directs, and his parents were just very on the nose. Honestly, that's what happens with Thespian. Anyways, director. Ooh, we gotta... there's a new character, so we have to spin the wheel. Let us see. Oh no. Topkin. What is Director Kin? Director Kin's Flippy from BoJack Horseman. Does anybody remember? His name's Flippy, right? Because he was a dolphin in that one episode. The guy who directs Filbert. That's who director That's who director Ken's. So if you need a personality for director, then you need to think about that. So director is this kid who, like, wants to be a director, obviously. His parents were probably directors, his grandparents were probably directors. Ooh, or no, we're not going down that route. We're not gonna give a backstory to director, okay? He's just the director. He does have some backstory, because basically, as a kid, he came across the Explorer series and read it all. But by that point, the fandom was long dead. But he like, tried to get into the fandom, but basically, he read the entire series, and then he probably read the Explorer's Sun version, and the Expressions version. So he goes into the fandom, like, with the, like, characters in mind, and he sees how the fandom has just totally changed all of the characters. He's like, why do people ship Sammy and the Explorer? That's terrible. Like, she's like a sister to him. There's no romance there. And he becomes so anti-Sammy that in his brain he's like, I'm going to turn this book series into movies one day, and I'm going to make sure nobody ships Sammy and the Explorer. So finally, he does his movie gigs, and then finally they're like, hey, we need somebody to direct this new series. We're going to turn the Explorer books into a movie series. And he's like, me, please let it be me. And they're like, yeah, director, go for it. So director is like, yes. So the director decides, his brilliant way to get people to not ship Sammy and the Explorer is to make them siblings, right? So in his story, Sammy is, like, the Explorer's lost sister, right? And that's why they both have superpowers, because they're related. So he's like, okay, to cast, I've got to cast some people to play Sammy and the Explorer, and there's this couple of actors, brother-sister duo, and now in their society there's plenty of brother-sister actors, there's plenty of sibling actors. In fact, a lot of times siblings in their movies are played by actual siblings, just because of the way the trade system works in their universe, that it's like Jaden Smith, Will and his wife Smith, and then they have kids that are also in the music and acting industry. Are they in the acting industry? Well, I don't know what industry Jaden Smith is in, but I love him. Or like how Billy Ray Cyrus, and then was in music, and then Miley Cyrus was in music. It's like that, but like with all of their celebrities, And I think that I honestly don't know why we don't do that, because probably because a lot of celebrities think, I don't want this life for my kids. But in their world, celebrity, like, not celebrity, but acting is a trade like anything else. So all of their actors are like, family members, or like, not all of them, obviously. It's not uncommon to have sibling actors. But the thing is about these two actors, so The characters are named Thespian and Doll, and Thespian's name is the one who acts, I believe, but I don't want to call him actor because that sounds dumb to me, but another word for actor is thespian. And then Doll is the one who is as beautiful as a doll. And okay, wait. No. Let me just say about Thespian's name. I feel like his family was one of the first acting families. Like when Ames of Hostess's version of like Shakespeare. I don't know if Shakespeare actually invented. Shakespeare did not invent plays. Okay, whoever invented plays, like the first family that was like acting, that's like our thing. They started naming their kids Thespian. Like the first Thespian was like the son of like the first acting family, right? And then every generation they named one of their kids Thespian, and then so it became like this family name. So like you hear the name Thespian and you're like, you come from a long line of actors. And then we have Doll, who's just, she's pretty. She's as beautiful as a doll, you know? She has this very doll-like beauty. So immediately we see there's some gender inequality going on here. Anyways, these are two very important characters, or at least Doll is. Thespian. I mean, we're not talking about reincarnations. What? Dumb. But people were asking if I could spin the wheel several times if I get an important character. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for Thespian and Doll. So starting out with Thespian, I'm going to spin the wheel 3 times. Let's see, Thespian, first one. Thespian is older, by the way. It's Thespian, and then Doll is younger than him. Okay, well, we got Topkin again, but I don't want to. I always forget to. Yeah, so you have to shuffle the wheel, or else it normally lands on the same one that you did before. But I shuffled this thing twice, and I still got top kin. So now I have to figure out who Thespian's top kin is. Thespian's top kin. Okay, we're going with Silco from Arcane. But here's the thing. He comes off as Jim from The Office, but his true kin is Silco from Arcane, which I know sounds like a wild combo, but hear me out, okay? I'm not saying Thespian is evil, but he is, like, he does, okay, here's the thing, that I feel like, weirdly, like, Thespian is evil, but he doesn't do evil things. But he, like if he was an alignment, like, I would call him, like, lawful evil. But he has no reason in this storyline to be evil, since he basically has everything, and he's not, like, a controlling person. Like, I don't want to get into, like, everything about Thespian, but basically he has no reason to be evil, but he has the capability of doing evil things. That's why to most people he seems like Jim from The Office. He's just like a normal, relatable guy, but on the inside he's very Silco from Arcane. Am I saying the name right? Anyways, so we're gonna spin again to see the next thing. Okay, I got aesthetic, and I am quickly realizing that I do not know about many of... Basically, my knowledge of aesthetics is kidcore and dark academia and light academia. Let me go do some research. Let me see. Okay, I could spend, like, all day looking at all these different aesthetics, but I feel like he is very Victorian, like, in aesthetic. Like, those are just the vibes that I get from him, but, like, specifically, like, those Victorians that are, like, almost campy, like the girls in, like, bright green and bright yellow, and, like, the houses that, like, have, like, pastels, but then also, like, funky wallpaper. Like, the more eclectic Victorian, that would be Thespian style. Okay, and spinning for the last time. Ooh, looks like we got Enneagram. What a shocker. Ooh, we totally got Enneagram. Oh, let's see what... I actually have to go grab my Enneagram book. Hold on. Okay, I'm kind of having a hard time figuring out his Enneagram. I think I'm going to go with 7 Wing 8. Even though I feel like Pippa's also a 7 Wing 8, and I don't really see Thespian. You know what? Thespian and Pippa, but the thing is with Thespian is that he has, like, very strong 3 qualities, but I feel like a 3, like, people who don't know Enneagram are going to be so confused. Everybody just get into the Enneagram. Trust me, get into it. But I feel like he has a lot of 3 qualities, but I feel like with 3s, there's, like, definitely the reason that 3s perform so much is because they desperately, like, want people to like them. I could be wrong about that, and Thespian just doesn't really care about what people think. He's mostly interested in, doing what he wants to do, which is what gives me very 7 wing 8 qualities, you know, where but with like a dash of 3 in there, which I know is not how this works, but that's what I'm gonna go with. Anyways, moving on to Doll. Let's see what we shall get for her when I spin this wheel. Okay, I got aesthetic again. I'm almost convinced that, like, this wheel, it doesn't matter how many times you shuffle it, ballet core. That's Doll's aesthetic, just, you know, ballet core. I think ballet academia is what it's called, but yeah, very, very much ballerina vibes from Doll. That's what I'm going with.
Hello, it's Editing Sarah again. I don't know how it got cut out, but I spun the wheel again and I got Zodiac. So just, you know, that's why I'm suddenly talking about Scorpios.
Okay, I'm getting Scorpio vibes from Doll. Here's the thing, that all of my knowledge of the Zodiac came from Homestuck, so I thought Scorpios acted like Vriska, and then I found out they didn't, so I don't actually know. Yeah, I feel like she's a Scorpio sun, Libra moon, or maybe the opposite. No, we're going with Scorpio sun, Libra moon. Let's see, what should her ascendant? I feel like I could see a Capricorn ascendant for her, but again, I could be wrong. It's my character. Okay, and let's spin the wheel again. Oh, look at that, she got anagram. Wow. what a shocker. The joke here is that I'm just gonna tell you the Enneagram type of all these characters because I am obsessed. Anyways, I'm gonna check my book, but I think I know what type she is. Okay, see, now I'm torn, because I was thinking that she was a 5 with a wing 4, and then I thought it was cool, because then Seeker is definitely a 3 with a 4 wing, and then, you know, spoilers, Ambition, Seeker is a big character in the story, and Ambition talks to her a lot, and I thought that it would be fun, and Seeker is, Doll's best friend, so I thought it'd be fun if, like, Seeker was a 3 wing 4, and Doll was a 5 wing 4, and then Ambition was a 4, but I opened my page to type 1, and it says the Perfectionist, and I just feel like type 1, I could definitely see Doll as also a type 1 with a 9 wing, and I feel like that could be, like, why Ambition goes for her initially, because of her 9 wings. He sees a lot of the same traits in her that he saw in Method, and then, you know, but then her type 1-ness, which is her overly critical nature, is what ends up driving them apart. So I think I'm gonna say that she's a type 1 with a 9 wing. Ambition, for the record, is a type 4 with a 3 wing. Please, everybody get into the Enneagram so you'll know what I'm talking about. But also, like, for type 5, the quote for this one is, I think, therefore I am. I think, which literally, Therefore I Am by Billie Eilish is, like, one of Doll's theme songs, so I don't know, I'm torn. No, I'm gonna make her type 1 with a 9 wing. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so now that y'all know a little bit more about Thespian and Doll, let's talk about their story. So Thespian and Doll are siblings, Thespian being the older sibling, I want to say by like 2 years or something. So, you know, their dad was Thespian, who was a great actor, and their mother was also an actress. And so, you know, when they were born, they were, like, trained to be actors. And, you know, they started, like, you know, starring in TV shows and movies and all these different medias from a very young age. So, you know, by the time that they're adults, you know, they're very profound actors. I mean, profound. They're very good actors, right? Okay, my computer had to charge, so I had to move locations. So it's gonna sound a little bit different. Let me just... That probably sounded great. Anyway, so, I might have to actually cut this episode a little bit short because I'm a busy woman. Anyways, we are out of the closet. We are out of the closet, folks. Yay! Anyways, so Thespian, it kind of has this, like, very, like, heartthrob energy to him, like very Dreamboat, you know, very Justin Bieber, like very Harry Styles, I imagine, you know, like a little bit of a flirt, you know, a little bit, you know, like, you know, a little bit of an F-boy kind of vibe, but like in like a good way, you know, like you want him to be one sort of thing. Basically everybody loves Thespian, whereas Doll gets this reputation for being just like super like prude, like basically she gets a reputation for being a huge bitch, you know, because people are like, she's rude, she's overly critical of everybody, she won't sleep with me. Yeah, she definitely, there's like very much, you know, I feel like her theme song is, you know, that song Take a Hint by the Victorious Cast, where she's like, no, or like, my name is no, my sign is no, my number is no, you need to let it go, you need to let it go, not to I to no, no, no. That is Doll at the beginning of her story. She's just like, but she, since she has like this way that she holds herself, she has like this poise, this posture, this very ballerina vibes. When she says no to you, it comes off as, ew, gross, you're disgusting, I'm way better than you. So people, she seems stuck up. She seems like she has her nose in the air, that she's just looking down on everybody, and she very much she doesn't like, she very much is like, I don't care what other people think about me. So she like doesn't like care about this persona. And so like she has like a reputation of being kind of hard to work with, because she will like take the script. Like I feel like once she literally took the script back to the director and threw it in his face and said, I'm not gonna do that crap. But the thing is that she's just a perfectionist, and she's like an introvert, and she isn't interested in having a million flings like her brother. And she's actually way better at acting than her brother is. But they've kind of been typecast as siblings since they work so well as siblings, especially with Thespian being more the fun, flirty type, and Doll being the straight man, you know? They work so well together that they always get cast as siblings. And so even though Doll is like this amazing actress, you know, she never really gets to flex her muscles, because she's always just like the character that's Thespian's sister. So when director is looking for people to play Explorer and Sammy, as he has it with them being siblings, he's like, well, of course I have to cast Thespian and Doll. So Doll gets cast as Sammy the Aspian, and Thespian gets cast as the Explorer. And it's worked out great. See, this is one of the stories that I actually have stuff written down for. I did actually write down notes. So I'm just going to read what I wrote down. Because basically I had this idea for turning it into a novel, but it was very much like, I'm not going to do this, but if I was going to do it, this is how I would do it. And I don't have a title. It's kind of like Blue Dye, where I have a title and it doesn't really have anything to do with the story, but it's just what I call it in my head. So I call it Next Time Doll, and it's Next Time, comma, Doll. Like, that's the title. I just think it sounds cool. So it says that the story switches between 200 years and 222 years after Infinity's death. Like, it's one of these dual narrative sort of things, where like we have it like in like the past and then the future, and then the switch back to the past and the future, and when you're looking at it in the past, you're thinking like, how does it get to the future? And we're looking at it in the future, you're like, how did these characters get here? And so it's very interesting, but I didn't want to write it switching back and forth, so I wrote down what happens in the past and then what happens in the future. So we have, for the past, 200 years after Infinity's death, his books are turned into movies. They cast sibling pair Thespian and Doll as the Explorer and the Aspian, respectively. Doll, ever the method actor, takes time to prepare for her role. A year before filming was set to start, Doll meets a strange woman. She has pale skin and long brown hair and 2 high ponytails, but most notably, her eyes are pure gray. She introduced herself. I did not stop there. Most importantly, her eyes are pure gray. It's the Aspian. She introduces herself as Judith. One of these days, I'm going to go through and explain all of the reasons that the Aspians have these different names. Judith isn't all that special. I just think that they have like, I get the names from different places. So I think it'd be fun to go through that. Anyways, so she introduces herself as Judith, but says Doll will probably recognize. I can't read, but says Doll will probably better recognize her predecessor's name, Sammy. She says that all the Explorer's books were real. His powers, the other planets, the Aspian, all real. And she is the next Aspian. Of course, Doll doesn't believe her. So Judith offers proof. She predicts one bizarre thing that will happen to Doll each day of that week. Doll thinks she's just a crazy fan and politely excuses herself. But then by the end of the week, each of Judith's predictions had come true. Just when Doll was wondering if she would ever see the strange woman again, Judith shows up at her doorstep. She says she'll help Doll become Sammy as long as she keeps Judith a secret. Like, she'll help Doll, like, figure out the character and stuff. Not, like, become Sammy. So as long as she keeps Judith being an Aspian a secret. So Doll agrees and the two become friends. So by the time filming begins, Doll has mastered her impression of the Aspian. Lighthearted with a gravity behind her eyes, overly talkative but mysterious. She has her trademark all-knowing smile down. Even her brother is impressed. So Doll meets the rest of the crew. She's mostly ignored. Why do I not stop in between periods? Doll meets the rest of the crew. She's mostly ignoring them until she meets their expert on explorer lore. It's Infinity's, quote, descendant commitment. He strikes her fancy immediately. He's got this bravo to him that makes him stand out. Doll can't stand him, which makes her intrigued by him. I get very Gorgeous by Taylor Swift vibes, like, you should take it as a compliment that I'm talking to everyone here but you. Like, that's Doll with ambition. The two of them slowly get to know each other as they film the first movie. He's got this mystery to him like the Aspian. She always feels like he's holding something back when he tells her a story from his life. He never mentions where the scar on his forehead came from, but he's bold, a little dumb, and just her type. So when he asks her out, she says yes. They start dating. Both Judith and Doll's best friend, ex/sister-in-law, Seeker, are curious about the details. I barely mentioned Seeker at all in this. So basically, Doll does have a best friend before Judith. Like, when she meets Judith, like, they kind of become best friends. But before that, her best friend was Seeker. Now, Seeker is a nil. So Seeker also has no family. But because Seeker was so beautiful, she ended up, wandering through the big city and, like, got approached by a modeling company that was like, you're gorgeous, girl. Let me become a model. So she was like, okay. And this was, like, when she was, like, 18 or so. Also, I don't mention this, but, like, Doll is, like, 30 in the story at the beginning, like, she's very much an older woman. Like, she isn't some, like, perky 18-year-old. Just so when Seeker was about 18, she gets into modeling, and of course she becomes famous because she's just gorgeous and everybody loves her, and her boobs are very big. Anyways, so her and Thespian start dating. I guess the Thespian isn't as much of a Harry Styles type by the time we get to the part of the narrative, because first Seeker is just friends with Doll, because Seeker is, like, such an extrovert. Like, she's the extrovert that adopted introverted Doll and be like, we're gonna be friends now. And Doll's like, can we not? And Seeker's like, you don't get an option, we're friends now. But Seeker is able to get Doll, like, out of her shell and, like, talking. So the two of them become besties. And then, of course, because Doll introduced the Seeker to Thespian, and then Thespian's, like, the local heartthrob, and, like, everybody wants to date Seeker, so of course they start dating, they become, like, their Hollywood it couple, or, like, their equivalent of Hollywood, and of course, eventually they get married, and it's all very sweet, and everybody loves them, they're just very loved members of the community. So Seeker is a model, so she isn't part of the filming of the Infinity series, because they're gonna turn all 10 books into movies. Like, this is a engagement that they're going on. And of course, Thespian's like 32 and he's supposed to be playing 18-year-old the Explorer, which is just how Hollywood works in our world, so I assume it works the same in their world. But Seeker is a very important character. Here's the thing, though, that, like, Judith, like, she never says she doesn't like Seeker, but it's definitely, like, when Seeker's around, Judith is not around. And besides, Doll has to kind of keep Judith a secret, but Judith ends up becoming, like, closer friends with Doll than Seeker is, because with Seeker, everything is so on the surface, right? Like, you can't really get deep with Seeker, and you get the sense that, like, it's not like she's too dumb, like, it's not like she's, like, shallow. I mean, maybe she is. She's just like, I don't really want to talk to you about that stuff. Like, you're sad? Just don't be. Anyway, stop bothering me about it, that sort of thing. That's the kind of person that Seeker is. So a lot of times, Doll ends up kind of bending in their relationship to make Seeker happy. Whereas Judith is like, Doll, we're besties. Doll, I love you. I would kiss you on the lips. And Doll's like, haha, as friends, right? And Judith is like, you can't see the face that I'm making. But yeah, also Doll doesn't know that gay people exist. Because, there's society. Anyways, so back to the story. So, like, of course, anytime that her and Commitment go on dates, it should be clear, by the way, that Commitment is Ambition. I should probably call him Ambition because, he has so many different stinking names that I can't tag all of the names on Tumblr. I can't tag #ambition, #passion, #commitment, #devotion, #motivation. Like, we will be here all day. So I'm just gonna call him Ambition, even though he goes by Commitment at this time. So, of course, every time they go on a date, both Seeker and Doll are like, give me all the deets, and she lets them know some of them, because Doll has to keep something to herself. So one day, Doll is hanging out with Judith in her back room. Doll initially didn't like Judith coming into the set because it was too out in the open, because if she really wanted to stay hidden, they would only meet at Doll's house. But Judith had a way of slipping in between the shadows, so she was never worried. But that day, Commitment come bursting into the room, big smiles with chocolate and roses for Doll, Doll because he likes to surprise her with gifts. I feel like Ambition's love language is definitely gifts. However, as soon as he sees Judith, his eyes go dark. You're dead, he says. Judith just smiles and says, sorry, I see you're confusing me with Sammy. I get it. All us Aspians do look the same. But my name is Judith, and I've heard a lot about you. And of course, Ambition is extremely suspicious of Judith. He's like, no. Also, I don't know if I said this, but, I think at some point, Ambition kills Sammy. That or, like, he watches her die. Somehow, Ambition knows that Sammy dies. I guess probably Sammy does die of old age. Most Aspians, if they're not killed by Ambition, just die of old age. Or, if they're off, maybe, like, they'll get executed or something for just being too rowdy. Anyways, so... Ambition is extremely suspicious of Judith. She tries to explain that while she has all of Sammy's memories, she would never hurt him like Sammy did with Infinity. Sammy didn't hurt Infinity, she killed him, Ambition reminds her. And Judith explains, I hate reading. Judith explains that all of that had to happen to follow the plan. But now all that suffering is over. Ambition can live a happy life now. And Judith is actually there to make sure that everything goes smoothly. That's all she's here for. She's just like, listen, you've suffered so much. I'm just here to make sure nothing bad ever happens again. That's what I'm here for. And Ambition is like, how do I know you're telling the truth? Sammy pretended to be Infinity's friend. Oh, what if Judith is just pretending too? Judith's smile is unchanged as she tells him there's no way for him to know. Classic Aspian. So Doll is like, yo, what? Ambition, do you know the Aspian? Like, do you know, like, about the Aspian? Like, does he know that Ambition's book, or Infinity's books are real? And Ambition figures, like, there's no need to hide it if she knows that, so he says that he does know that it's real, because he's been out in the universe. He's seen it all for himself. He reintroduces himself as Passion, Infinity's son. Doll's like, how old are you? And he tells her that he's 212. I think that he'd be more like 213 at this point. But Doll is shocked. She's even more shocked when Ambition opens a portal and takes her into Sid. They go through and visit all the places that Explorer and Sammy went to. Most of the planets have changed a lot in the past 200 years, but Doll can recognize them as the places that Infinity described. And she's like totally amazed. So Doll becomes even more Aspian-light in Set as she now possesses more knowledge about what they're recreating more than almost anyone else. And Ambition keeps showing her new things every day. I love the idea of, like, her showing up to Set and, like, them being in a place, and, like, she just gives, like, tidbits about the planet, and they're like, that's not in the script, and they're like, don't stop making stuff up. She's like, I'm not, it's part of the mystery. And they're like, wow, she's so in character. And then Ambition's in the back like, hee. And a director's like, is that true? I mean, you're the expert in Explorer lore. And he's like, oh yeah. And they're like, have you been, like, telling her stuff in the background? He's like, it's all part of the mystery. And then Ambition's like, oh wait, dang, but I hate the Aspian. And then Judith is just laughing in the background. Shenanigans, actor shenanigans. Anyways, but Ambition loves showing Doll things around the universe, because, like, when you show somebody something, like you can love something, but then, he's like 200 years old, like, kind of like he's lost, like, the excitement of the idea of exploring the universe. But Doll is just so curious about everything. They get to a new planet, she wants to know, like, everything, like, all their systems, all their cultures, all their customs, how do things work here, there's a crazy glowing plant, how does that work? And, like, the way that she's so intrigued by everything, and, it really gets her out of her shell, and she stops acting all perfectionist and snobby, and is just, like, amazed by the complexities of the universe. Like, it makes Ambition be like, oh yeah, things aren't all doom and gloom anymore, and he just falls so deep in love with Doll. But of course, the entire time Judith is there, and he freaking hates the Aspian, so he begrudgingly hangs out with the Aspian. I mean, Judith loves him because it's Ambition, but he's like, stupid freaking Aspian. But Doll is like, you two be nice, and Judith is like, I'm being nice, and Ambition's like, I'm being nice, and then he's like, I'm gonna be so nice to you, you won't even, like, he makes it like a challenge where he's like, I'm gonna be nicer to the Aspian than the Aspian is to me. So the Aspian's like, hey, your hair looks good today. He's like, your face looks good today. I love Ambition. Anyways, but he does try to convince Doll, like, to the side. He's like, you can't trust the Aspian. She will stab you in the back. Like, this is, and Doll's like, dude, this is a different Aspian. You can't blame her for everything that Sammy did. Because, like, Judith has been nothing but kind to her. And he's like, you've literally read You've literally read the Explorer series. Like, you know what she did. And she's like, okay, but that was Sammy. And he's like, I'm not convinced. I don't trust her. And there's gotta be some kind of conflict, but I said I haven't come up with it yet. And Thespian Seeker also have to be a bigger part of the story, but I don't really care about them right now. Yeah, so, oh gosh, I forgot to do my mid-break thing. I guess we'll do the mid-section break here, because basically, like, the first part of the story is just, you know, it's Doll and Ambition falling in love, and nothing bad is happening, but there's always on the horizon, you know, especially with Judith, you know, and Ambition insisting, like, she's up to something, I just don't know what, and Doll's like, what is she up to? Is she up to being a good friend, you know? Also, there is definitely some, like, homoerotic stuff going on with Doll and Judith, but, like, here's the thing, because, like, Ambition introduces Doll to the concept of gay people, and he thinks that it's going to be the same with her, like it was with, like, Quest and Method and everything, where she goes, like, gay people can exist, let me go kiss some women, but she's like, I mean, maybe it works for other planets, but that's just not how we do things here, like, gay people just don't exist here. And Ambition's like, I was literally married to a man for, like, years, and she's like, as friends? He's like, no, I was in love. She's like, you mean, like as friends? And he's like, girl, no. And he's like, girl, you are probably gay, but I can't say anything. And I think that you've just, like, I think that you know that something's up, and you're just trying to pretend like it's not, so you're just thinking that everybody should pretend it's not. Very much that type of person. I don't want to be like Doll is homophobic. But Doll is homophobic. So, yeah. So, like, and I get it, like, nobody come for me for liking this homophobic character. I'm literally I literally made her homophobic. It's to tell a story, y'all. We can make bad characters. Like, okay, yeah, I can like the guy who goes around murdering people, but I can't like the homophobic lesbian. Yes, she's gay. Yes, she's homophobic. Leave her alone. That's what Judith is like. Like, bestie, we can make out as friends. Please, let's make out as friends. I love them. I know it's bad, but I love them. Anyways, mid-section break. What are we gonna do? Okay, I'm actually rapidly running out of time, but for some reason I keep on thinking about Infinity Train, so I'm just gonna talk about what these characters would think of Infinity Train. Obviously, Ambition. I feel like Ambition would like book 4 the best. People who haven't seen Infinity Train, I'm going to try not to spoil. I feel like he would like book 3 and book 4 the best, but I feel like he would go back and forth on which one is his favorite. Like sometimes he's like, yeah, book 3, it was incredible. Simon's fall arc, Grace's redemption arc, it was incredible. Hazel was adorable. I wish we saw more of Amelia. But then, like, I feel like he has a special place in his heart for book 4 just because he kens Ryan so much, and I feel like Method would ken Mingy, if that's his name. I can't remember. So I feel like he sees a lot of him and himself in those two characters. Him and Method in those two characters. So I feel like that's why book 4 is his favorite. I don't think Doll would like Infinity Train. I feel like she'd be that kind of person that like would see like the promo, the like short that came out and be like, this is really interesting. And then she would watch the first season and be like, yeah, okay. But then, you know, it starts getting into the second, third, and fourth season, and she's like, no, I'm not really about this. I feel like Seeker would be like, oh, why would people die? Oh my gosh, I literally read the same exact characters over and over again. It doesn't matter. But then secretly she loves Simon. Like she's over here with like her Simon body pillow. Same with Thespian. Well, no, I feel like Thespian would be like, yeah, it's a dope show, but I feel like his favorite book would be book 2. I feel like he would just love Lake as a character, but like, it's not like he would be like, I love Lake. He'd be like, yeah, Lake, they're awesome, you know? Well, I mean, he wouldn't say they. I headcanon that Lake uses they, them pronouns. Oh, I just realized calling them Lake is kind of a spoiler. Anyways, so that's what I think my characters would think of Infinity Train. And now I'm kind of... I didn't spin the wheel for Seeker or Judith, did I? Okay, let me spin the wheel for Seeker really quickly. Is it favorite color or moral alignment? Ooh, it's close. Moral alignment. Oof, okay. Is she lawful evil? I feel like she's neutral evil. Because she's not quite chaotic, like, she's a little bit more calculating, but she's not so calculating and, like, a stickler for the rules. Like, she's definitely more, like, kind of a, like, go with the flow with my evil plans sort of thing. Listen, is Seeker evil? When some things come out about her, This is the problem though, because like, you know, I don't know if people like, I don't want to make a, I feel like Seeker's character is very borderline problematic, like from a feminism angle, but let women be evil 2022, okay? Okay, let's see. Favorite media type. I put this on here because I feel like you can tell a lot about a person by their favorite media type, and by media type I mean books, movies, TV shows, podcasts, or music. Like, what do they primarily? Like, are they a music person? I feel like Seeker is a movie person, you know? I feel like she's the bitch that's going to she's going to all of the Avengers movies, right? She's making edits of Loki in her bedroom at 2 a.m., okay? Like, that is Seeker. Like, she's very much a movies person. But she's not a movies person in, like, the guy who's obsessed with 80s movies and goes, like, you haven't watched Pulp Fiction? Like, no, she's very much, like, an early 2000s, like, obsessed with movies. But, like, Marvel movies sort of person. Okay, let's see, ooh, look, we got Enneagram for the third one. Wow, that's so weird. I already said her Enneagram. She's a type 3 for sure. I feel like she's a type 3 wing 4, but she could be type 3 wing 2. I left my book in the other room, and I don't have time to get it. So I'll come back to you about that. Okay, so those were the 3 for her. And I guess I'll do 3 for Judith, but it'll be probably, like, all of the Aspians, so if it's top kin, no, it's zodiac sign. Oh no, it's top kin. Who do the, hold on, give me a second. This is kind of difficult, because I know some stuff about the Aspian that makes it difficult to say what the Aspian's top kin is. So just give me a second. Wait, I'm dumb. Their top kin is C2, obviously. It's C2. Somebody shoot me in the forehead. It's, their top kin is C2 from Koki Yas. Okay, let's see. If I get top kin again. No, stop it. Let me shuffle this a couple times. If I get top kin a third time, I'm gonna scream. Is it going to be favorite color? Indigo. It got favorite color. Her favorite color is indigo. Her favorite color is indigo. Why did I sing that? Oh, let's spin it a third time. Oh, wow, look, we got Enneagram. What a shocker. Type 4, wing 3. I know that's the same as ambitions. It's on purpose. Now, you may be thinking, shouldn't it be type 4, wing 5? No, it's type 4, wing 3. Nobody come for me. Why am I so paranoid and aggressive? I'm losing my mind. Goodness gracious. Y'all just gotta bear with me. I know I'm not, like, the most sane individual, and sometimes I act less sane than other times. Like, sometimes I go on rants about how, like, I was watching my old video, and I was like, they're getting inside my head, it makes me paranoid, and I was like, girl, calm down. But this is just how I am. This is just how I am. And now I'm really torn, because I could start, you know what, I'll just set the stage for the future, because I don't want to get into it too much. So, you know, I feel like I'm like maybe 2 or 3, probably movie 3. By movie 3, you know, Ambition posing as commitment, and Doll, you know, Ambition proposes, Doll says yes, because, you know, this is a magical boy. Who doesn't say yes to the magical boy? That look how he makes it sound like he put, like, some magical spell on her. No, they genuinely, they get married, okay? And Ambition is, like, super in love with her. Like, he thinks that, you know, finally he can heal from Method, you know? And he really wants to have, like, that white picket life with her, you know? He wants to do the whole thing. Get married, raise kids, you know, set them on a trade, you know, set them up for life, you know? Because he never really did that with Method. With Method, he was mostly just healing and, you know, just spending as much time as possible with his spouse. But, you know, he has, like, greater ambitions, I suppose, this time, you know? He really wants to have, like, a family. Not that he was, like, ever angsty about not having a family with Method. With Method, it felt like he didn't really need to have, like, the whole kids and white picket fits or anything, because he had Method there. But with Doll, because, you know, Doll wants to have kids, you know, because, you know, that's how she does things. That's how their society is, you know? She's an actress. She has kids, so they can be actors, you know? And besides Thespian and Seeker, like, they should be having kids, but they aren't. And Doll is like, you know, you do have to have, like, at least a son to, you know, to pass on the family name. And Thespian's like, yeah, ha ha ha, The things I know about Thespian that I should not know about Thespian. But anyway, so Doll and Ambition do get married, and they had kids. Why do I sound like I'm about to cry? They do have kids. A couple of years later, Doll has a daughter, and she names her the one who is youthful, and we call her Youth, and I love her! I love her. And then 2 years later, they have a son. Oh, I forgot to talk about Canary. I don't think I've mentioned Canary once this entire podcast, because I always forget he exists. So basically, the Aspian is blind. I know, you feel like this is a thing that should have come up before, but the Aspian is blind, but they see through the eyes of canaries. So they always have a pet canary that they take with them everywhere, and it just is perched on her shoulder, and his name is Canary. It's a canary, his name is Canary, and it's a canary, and it's very canary. So Judith has a pet canary named Canary, Sammy has a pet canary named Canary, and to be fair, Ambition never saw Canary die. And he's like, how long do canaries live? And Sammy's like, it's part of the mystery. He's like, it's literally not. I can go look it up. And technically, I think on their planet, it's not technically a canary, because canary is like an earth bird, but it's a yellow songbird. So I'm just calling them canaries. So Judith has this canary as a pet named Canary. And when Doll has her second son, her second kid, it's a son, and he has yellow hair and yellow eyes, and Judith tells her, this one, he's going to be able to sing like my little canary here.
Okay, this is editing Sarah. I explained how Canary got his name, like the sun canary, but I didn't really like the explanation, so I'm retconning it. I'm saying that Ambition got to name Youth. I don't know why he named her Youth. Maybe he liked the name or something. And then, like, when Doll is pregnant with Canary, like, classic babies kicking, somebody makes a joke about how he's going to be a drummer. And Judith is like, well, actually, this little one is going to be able to sing like my canary here. And Doll is like, you know what, that's actually kind of a nice name, like the one who sings like Canary. And she's like, I think I'm going to name him that.
And Ambition is like, what? No, you're not allowed to name him Canary. And Doll's like, you got to name Youth, because also Ambition got to name Youth. So I get to name our son, and I'm naming him Canary. And Judith is like, good choice. And Ambition's like, can't you see that she's manipulating you? And Doll's like, oh my goodness. Because this is basically how their conversations go, where Doll gets along with Judith and wants to do something because Judith suggested, and Ambition goes, don't you know she's manipulating you, and she's gonna stab you in the back, and it's gonna be awful, and Judith is like, you're paranoid, and then they get into a huge argument about this. This is the thing about Doll and Ambition, is they always get into these big, long, lengthy arguments, and the longer that they're married, it starts out as just like disagreements that they turn into full-blown arguments, and then, it's screaming, yelling matches, I never think that, like, they get into, like, physical abuse territory. Like, I don't see them like hitting each other or anything, but it's very much like yelling at each other, which of course is a great environment to raise two kids in. So yeah, Youth and Canary don't have like the best home life, because first of all, they're forced into the spotlight of fame at a young age, and Ambition, as like when he first like meets Thespian and Doll and sees like this culture of like, he's probably grew up with this culture of, like, celebrities are born, they're not made, unless you're a nil and you're, like, pretty. And so I don't think that he really sees anything wrong with it, and he doesn't think that it would, like, affect a kid's psyche, because he's like, well, Doll and Thespian seem fine, but then, like, the more that he, like, spends time with Doll and Thespian and, like, hears about Doll's childhood and stuff, he's like, okay, maybe your childhood wasn't like my childhood, but it also didn't seem great. And he starts to think, like, do I really want to do this with my kids? But then by that time, his kids are already, like, 2 and, like, like 4 and 2 years old, so they've already been in like a lot of movies and stuff, being like the baby in that one scene, and people already know their names and faces, and people are always already talking about like, oh my gosh, did you see Doll's baby is turning 2, oh my gosh, can you remember when Canary was born? Oh, that was so sweet. It's very much their whole life is on display for everybody. And if anybody's wondering like, how does Ambition get away with being a warrant being out for his arrest to being a very public figure, I'd like to remind everybody that it's been like 2 200 years since then, so nobody in their right mind is looking at the very young looking ambition commitment and thinking that he's ambition. He just like gives a general like, yeah, I don't know what happened to my granddad. He went on the run, he had a son, and then that son had me, and then, you know, like we don't really know what happened there, you know, but, you know, I am a descendant of Infinity, the Explorer. A lot of hand wavy stuff, but, you know, nobody really questions it. So if anybody wants to know Youth and Canaries, I feel like Youth theme song is by Dessa, that song. A children's work. I think that's what it's called. That is so Youth and Canaries dynamic, where basically Youth is like the more extroverted kind and Canary is the more introverted kind. I like the idea of like, you know, when Canary, I think part of a children's work, like it says like Canary didn't talk at first, and like it says my mother was worried and my father said he'd be fine. And I very much like the idea of like Canary like being like nonverbal at times. Youth and Canary are two very different characters, but they work so well together because, you know, Youth gets mad at things, you know, Canary gets upset, like cries at things, and like Youth will hold grudges, but then Canary like forgives and stuff. Canary is very much a type 9 and Youth is very much a type 8, but I feel like they could be wings of each other. So I feel like Youth could be a type 8 wing 9 and Canary could be a type 9 wing 8. Oh my gosh, I love Youth and Canary so much. I mean, I mostly love Canary because, you know, baby boy, but I also love Youth, you know, baby girl, you know? I don't know, saying baby girl, I just feel like, ugh, you know, I feel like an 80-year-old man, like, baby girl, you know? Anyway, oh, I can spin the wheel for these characters. Let's see. Okay, let's start with you. This episode is just me spinning the wheel. I'm okay with that. I'm trying to not get into the plot of the next one, so I can do it next time. Favorite color, Youth's favorite color. Whew, that's a hard one. I think I'm gonna go with like a blue turquoise, like the color that I drew her in, because I drew her as like a kid. So I think that's what I'm going with. Did I get favorite color for? No, I don't think I did. Did I? I got it for the Aspian. If I get favorite color again. Oh, blood type. What did I put blood type on here? Now I have to go look up what the different blood types. I mean, I want to say AB positive just because she's hashtag special like that. But no. I could see her as O positive. But I also cannot remember what all the different types were. But I mean, I know what all the different blood types are, but I can't remember what the personalities attached to it are. But I'm just going to go ahead and say type O positive. And then let's spin the wheel again. Oh wow, that's so crazy, we got anagram again. How many times can I do this joke in one episode? I already said she's a type 8 wing 9. Is she a type 8? Yeah, I definitely think she's a type 8. Anyways, moving on to Canary, my son, my beautiful baby boy. Let us see what he shall get. My boy, top kin. Who does he kin? I mean, he kins Toby from the Transcendence AU. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I basically just did Toby from the Transcendence AU. No, I didn't, because, you know, I feel like but I feel like Toby, like, from the Transcendence AU, he's just, like, good boy, like, all his life. Whereas Canary, when he's older, he gets a lot more reserved and, like, almost a little bit bitter. So definitely not good, sweet, innocent boy his whole life. Top kin, hold on. Okay, really the best person I can think of is Psyche K from Psyche K. I feel like Psyche K, there definitely is like kind of leave me alone aspect to Psyche K. Like I feel like Psyche K would be happiest in a mountain, like at the top of a mountain completely alone. Whereas I feel like Canary, even though he is very introverted, he still like appreciates his family a lot. Like he likes hanging out with Youth. He doesn't really like his parents all that much. No, but here's the thing. So the thing is with Judith is like, I'm here to make your life easier, so I'll just be your babysitter. So Doll and Ambition are always working and always doing things. So Judith ends up basically raising Youth and Canary, and it's very much like, you know, they're all on a plane. This is part of the animatic. I didn't actually draw it though because I forgot. They're all on a plane, you know, flying to some event, you know, all dressed up, and you know, Doll and Ambition are just like yelling at each other, arguing, and you know, Youth and Canary are just kind of sitting there like, okay, and then you know, Judith comes in and she's like, I've got orange slices, y'all need anything? Hey, let's go into the other room. I got a TV set up. So very much like Judith is like they're like fun aunt, right? Or like they'll go on like family vacation and it's like, okay, it's good. We're all going to the beach. Like, yeah, this is great. And then of course, Ambition makes some comment and Doll like gets on to him about it. And then Ambition is like, oh, I'm not allowed to speak now. And then of course, they're arguing and screaming and stuff. And Judith is like, let's go build sandcastles, So she very much like, and then of course Ambition is like, don't you see what she's doing, Doll? She's trying to separate our kids from us. She's trying to make our kids hate us. And Doll's like, the kids she wouldn't have to be constantly taking the kids away if you just acted like a good person. And he's always like, oh, Method was so much better than you. And she's like, oh, here we go again about your perfect lover Method that I can never live up to. I'm sorry that I'm not a man. Is that what you want? So, and he's like, no, it's like not about that. And it's like, oh my gosh, they get into so many arguments. Like, I feel like because like Pippa's still around, so every now and then Ambition like f's off and like he like f's off and I don't know why I can't say fucks off. He fucks off and just goes hanging out with Pippa, and he comes back and she's like, I see you were hanging out with another woman. He's like, am I not allowed to have friends? And she's like hot and like young, and she's like, well, not young because I imagine by then she's more like 18 and stuff, and he's like, okay, so you think my friend is hot and you don't want me to spend time with her, but when I say that you're awfully close to Doll, and she's like, why are you so mad at me? So not Doll, Judith. They get into so many arguments, and this is the thing, like, I don't know why I find it fun to think about the arguments that they have. It's very like cathartic to me, because the reason that I created these characters is because I realized that I didn't have any like problematic parents. Like, all of my parents, because like I am pretty aro, like if two couples are married, they basically are just perfectly in love until one of them tragically dies. And I realize, like, I know that it's kind of cliche to give your characters like divorced parents, because I feel like a lot of people have divorced parents, and so like it naturally ends up in a lot of stories, but my parents never got divorced, so that was just never something I was inclined to write about. So I definitely wanted to try my hand at parents that are more, like a lot of people's parents, I guess, where they're just, I'm not saying everybody's parents fights. My parents didn't. So I never wrote about it. Yeah, okay, I kind of got sidetracked, kind of fell into sad girl hours for a second. I think I'm just gonna end the podcast here. I think it's a good length, good start. We'll get into the rest of Youth and Canary story. We'll get into it later. We'll get into it next time. And I will see you all in the next episode. Bye!